In 2016, Samsung released the Galaxy Note 7, and it was a rather explosive release. I think it would be safe to say that the Note 7 was Samsung's hottest release, and it was the only phone that actually blew up the market. Quite literally. The Note 7 ended up being an absolute disaster for Samsung, costing them over $17 billion. It got so bad that Samsung's market value dropped by around $19 billion at one point after they had recalled all of these Galaxy Note 7s. Moving into 2017, Samsung announced that they were going to be releasing the Samsung Galaxy Note 8, and it was more important than ever that they were able to deliver on a smartphone. And in my humble opinion, Samsung did an awesome job with the delivery of the Samsung Galaxy Note 8, and in some ways, the Note 8 is a smartphone that saved Samsung. In this video, we're going to take a look at the original Note 8 that I owned in 2017. I was going through my smartphones the other day and saw it sitting there and thought to myself, man, I wonder if this smartphone is still usable in 2025. Who knows, maybe we get through this video and I'm so excited on the Note 8 that I just end up daily driving this thing for the rest of the year. I dare you. Challenge me. Now, before I make any crazy commitments to you guys, I should show you that this is the Note 8 I'm referencing. This is the actual Note 8 that I used for 3 years, starting in 2017. One of my favorite parts of the Note 8, and this might sound kind of weird, is the way this glass sandwich came together to this thin piece of metal on the frame. It made the phone feel so comfortable in my hands. I'm a pretty fidgety guy by nature, and I would find myself doing this with this phone non-stop. No case, no screen cover, I just loved the glassy feel of this phone in my hands. As you've already seen, it definitely didn't help the condition of the phone, as it looks completely mangled. Considering I haven't used the phone for over 5 years, I'm excited to see what's still on the phone and take a trip down memory lane. Now, I do remember back in the day with MKBHD, and he reviewed this phone, his first impressions video, that there was some fuss over the placement of the fingerprint sensor on the back of the phone. I have bigger hands, so it was never really an issue for me, and the fingerprint scanner, I had an old piece of crap like J2 Prime. This was my first flagship device, so the fact that it had a fingerprint scanner, I was stoked. Considering I rocked the Note 8 naked the entire time I had it, I dropped it a few times and it caused the fingerprint scanner to stop working anyways. I really only used the fingerprint scanner probably for 1 year, if that explains anything. What really made me go crazy over this phone was the stylus, and we're gonna come back to this and talk a lot more about it, but I was just so late to the smartphone game. The fact that this phone had a stylus, I used it for absolutely everything. We'll come back to this. Something interesting about the Note 8 is when it was released in 2017, there was only 3 years of Android updates. You can see this phone is still on Android 9, and it was never able to update past Android 9. Sure, there was security updates, but those eventually fizzled out as well. What's kind of crazy is I found that there's an active subreddit just for the Galaxy Note 8, and there's 22,000 members on that subreddit as I'm making this video. I was researching to see if I should put a custom ROM on this phone or something similar so I could update it to Android 10 or 11 or 12, and I found that a lot of people are still daily driving the Note 8 today on Android 9, and they haven't done anything to the phone. Looks like the last security patch I got was in 2020, which makes sense. That was about when I stopped using the smartphone. And I cannot believe I was only using this with 64 gigabytes of storage. Wow. Let's do a test phone call. When I used this last, I was on Sprint. Now it's T-Mobile. I'm going to go out to West Valley City, Utah, where I've had horrible service previously, and see if I could make a phone call on a T-Mobile SIM card. Wow, it is pretty cold outside. We've got some snow coming down. For that reason, I am in the shelter of my Chevy Cruze. Now, I have put a T-Mobile SIM card into the Galaxy Note 8, and I chose to go to West Valley City, Utah because it's pretty far west, and having been in West Valley City years ago when I was on this device, I had horrible service. So I went ahead and put the SIM card into the phone. It's giving me this notification here. I'll pause the video so we could read all of this. But it's essentially telling me that I need to restart the phone. Let's restart and see if I can call my lovely wife on a test phone call. Okay, we're in the final restart of the phone. We should be good in a little bit. Let's see what happens. Oh, it's showing T-Mobile, baby. Let's go. And it looks like we have 4G LTE. Welcome to the new video calling dialer. Okay. All right, here we go. We're gonna try to call my wife.
Hi, babe.
Hey. Can you hear me all right?
Yeah. What's up?
I am on my old Samsung Galaxy Note 8.
Wait, the purple one?
Yeah, that's the one. Just showing you to the camera right now that it works.
Hello, YouTube.
Alright, I love you.
Love you.
Bye.
Bye.
That's good news. Maybe I should daily drive this thing for a week. What do you guys think? Maybe a month? 2 months? Maybe a year? I don't know. The Note 8 was unique because it had two back cameras. It had the wide-angle lens and the telephoto lens, which was unique to phones at the time. And I loved the camera on the Galaxy Note 8. I didn't even start YouTube until like 2021, so I wasn't an advanced user of the camera, and I'm not an advanced camera user now, but this phone was so fun to take photos on and record video. Now remember, I was coming from a J2 Prime, so having all of these different camera features was so much fun, like live focus and taking higher quality photos in pro mode. Panorama mode was fun. I didn't really ever use food mode, but for 2017 this was the best for its time. I just recorded this video here this week. This is the Wasatch Mountains. I live about 5 minutes from these. I go ski them all the time with my wife. This could record video in 4K up to 30 frames per second. It had 2 times optical zoom, and both cameras on the back were 2 megapixels, and the selfie camera was 8 megapixels. I was a little surprised when I was recording this video because this only has 2 times optical zoom, but it actually has 10 times digital zoom. So I feel like I could zoom way in on these mountains and probably see someone even skiing down if I watched close enough. Just kidding, I'm unsure if people ski this area. I went ahead and recorded some other video in this park and was just blown away by how stabilized the digital zoom is on this phone. Selfie cam's pretty good too. Say hello to my kitty Pumpkin. I turned the volume down on this because I'm talking to him in kitty cat gibberish as my face is against him and I don't want to be exposed. Here's a still photo of our RAV4. This is just to illustrate how much salt they put on the ground here in Utah when it snows. Here's a photo of me with the selfie cam just to show that 8 megapixels never looked so good. Leave a comment if any of you guys are daily driving a Note 8 or if you used a Note 8 back in 2017 or maybe a couple years after. Super curious to hear. Here's another photo just to show that our car is plastered in salt. Jeez. Now it's time to talk about my favorite part, which is the S Pen. And to be honest, the S Pen is why I never used an iPhone. That is until about 2 years ago, which I'll talk about why in a little bit. For now, let's talk about the S Pen. The Note 8 was my first flagship device, so I never had the honor of having my pocket catch on fire with the Note 7, but the new feature of the Note 8 having screen off note feature was just huge for me. Having an S Pen is just fun anyways, and actually having to use this thing was also a lot of fun for me. At the time I had a business and I was always jotting things down. It was just super convenient to be able to use this and not have to like open up notes. You could just write directly on your phone, and then once you're done, you could just save the note to your notes. It was the most convenient thing ever. Man, being in the phone, I'm just questioning my sanity from like 2017 to 20. Everything just looks scattered. You know, 2020 hit me pretty hard, I guess. The icon theme in the wallpaper, iOS 11, was current for its time, so I just like that. But yeah, let's get back to the stylus. Just wanted to laugh at how horrible the whole setup of my phone looked. So yeah, back to the S Pen. I liked how whenever you took the S Pen out, you had this whole menu here. Now, I wasn't like a super complex user of the S Pen, but for the parts that I used with this, oh man, I used them a lot, especially this button right here you see on screen. When you click that, it would also bring up the menu, and then the back of the S Pen had this clicker. The clicker didn't really have any functionality other than to pop it out of the bottom of the phone when you needed to get the S Pen. I use the S Pen mostly with this menu right here because they're really useful tools. Now, my wife speaks Portuguese, being from Brazil, so I would mostly use it for Portuguese to English. I've been trying to learn Portuguese forever, but this is a good tool. You just hover over the text, and then it could translate that text. Eventually, though, I found that it was easier to use Google Translate because I could just select everything at once, and Samsung's translation services worked, but I just prefer Google Translate because I use it so much. Either way, I still use the S Pen for it, and it was awesome. Even now, I would love the Smart Select feature because I have to take a screenshot of an entire screen, but with Smart Select, you could just use almost like a snippet tool that you use on a PC. You could snippet just a specific group of text or a photo. I seriously used this like 10 times on the daily back in like 2017 to 2020. Noted there was Bixby Vision as well as Glance. Advanced, but I just didn't really use either of those. It was like a multitasking tool to switch between multiple windows. There was also the Magnify tool, and you could use this to hover over anything and magnify it by up to 300%, but nowadays where you could just use 2 fingers to zoom in, I don't really see how this serves a purpose, although it was fun to use. Another update from the S Pen from the Note 7 to the Note 8 is I'm not actually touching the screen here. All of these features are available just by hovering the S Pen over the screen. You don't actually have to apply pressure, so that's cool. As I was going through this phone, I found it silly that I didn't really use any drawing applications to draw. I used just notes. I would go into Notes and Sketch. I do remember one application called IBIS Paint that I eventually started using around 2021 when I was creating thumbnails for YouTube videos, but for the most part, I was just using my notes. This note here I remember vividly because we were flying to Brazil in 2019 and there was air turbulence and I needed something to occupy my mind, so I got my notepad out and drew that. Okay, here's another one. Reminds me kind of Nikocado Avocado before the weight loss. I had tried switching over to the iPhone several times during this 4-year period of using the Note 8, and I just remember that the S Pen was what kept me from doing that several times. I want to take a quick minute just to go through these applications. I used some sort of icon package with a theme to get what you're seeing on the screen right now. I love the old school icons. It's definitely not One UI. And for the most part, I think you could use this phone in 2025 without any issues. If there was an application that gave you trouble, I think you would just essentially need to download an APK. I would just be very nervous to do that with banking applications and similar. Now, IBIS Paint, once I switched over to the Note 9 and the Note 10 Plus, I did use this application for thumbnails on YouTube. Like, this is a thumbnail I created on IBIS Paint. The YouTube video was titled, "I bought 500 pounds of computer keyboards to sell on eBay." Sadly, those keyboards did not sell. Here's another thumbnail I did. "I bought a random box of electronics for $20 at auction to sell on eBay." Alright, last thumbnail. This video was how to pack a cell phone for shipping on eBay. IBIS Paint, that's where it all started, and the Note 8 is what started me on YouTube. Like I said, 2021, I moved over to the Note 9 and to the Note 10 Plus. The way the S Pen was pressure sensitive, I was just blown away by what I could do on the phone. The technology was new to me and I ran with it and just had an absolute blast. But there were some parts of the Note that I didn't use at all, like Dex. Dex was like, I just didn't use Dex at all. And the best part of all this is you could completely use this as a smartphone in 2025 with some workarounds. That would come down to the applications you use, and there would be some security risks, so I wouldn't advise you use this in 2025, but you could definitely get away with it if you wanted. When I moved on from this phone, I put essentially everything onto a micro SD card and didn't leave much on the phone, but there are still some memories that were left behind. We shot this footage on a GoPro and just saved it onto this phone, and it's still here, and I'm glad I found it. This was such an awesome trip. We got back just in time because months after, COVID shut the world down. Any of my Brazilian viewers out there? Lucas, I know you're watching. You don't count, bro. And don't get me started on Samsung themes. I know iPhones come a long way with customization, but geez, they're not even close with what you could do to an Android device. You know, all this talking about these Samsung phones, maybe I should switch back to Android for a year. What do you guys think? Comment below. Enough comments, maybe I'll do it. Maybe I'll rock a Note 8, Note 9, Note 10 Plus. Guys, you let me know what you want to see, and I might just give it a shot. Look at that. New theme, new look. Although some of the application icons aren't matching, but whatever. I'll live with it. At the end of the day, you could get away with using one of these in 2025 with some workarounds. I had a ton of fun going down memory lane and taking another look at this phone. Still my favorite Android device and smartphone to this day. To come back on what I mentioned earlier about having used Apple for the last couple years, initially it was for really minor reasons. One of them being I was sending a lot of photo and video to my wife because of Apple's whole thing with iMessage, which is for a whole other conversation. It would convert all of my photo and video to pixelated, grainy, crappy looking photos, and we take a lot of mobile photos, and I just didn't want to deal with that. The second thing was over iMessage. I hated being in group and family texts where I would send a message and then get 50,000 texts saying that like someone reacted to a video or photo. It was really annoying. It has just become more convenient since I've been on Apple for a couple years now. When I record on an iPhone, there's no back and forth. It goes to my laptop instantly, which is now a Mac. That being said, I do use an Android tablet every single day. I also use Samsung-based headphones and other accessories. So like, it is what it is. I would say I use both. Apple and Android. Thanks so much, guys, for watching this video. It's been a long time since I've played with this Note 8, at least extensively as I did for this video. This last week, I was laid off from my day job, and so YouTube, it's all I got for now. So be sure to subscribe if you guys want to see more of me. Thank you so much for being here, and we'll catch you on the next one.